Hello everyone and welcome. FDA has just announced a new umbrella pathway for authorization of antibody tests during the current COVID-19 crisis. This is different from the emergency use authorization process. Recently, FDA has come under a lot of fire because they have allowed many of these antibody tests without even looking at their performance validation data. So there has been a lot of concern about their performance. As a result, FDA has now revised their policy and they are including this particular program as another alternative for manufacturers to bring their diagnostic devices under this authorization for the emergency purposes. So we look into the requirements of this program in this video, particularly around an independent validation at a lab designated by the FDA. This will be in addition to the validation data that the company would have generated on their own. So that's good news. There'll be an independent validation. And I'll also highlight the example of the first test that has been authorized under this program. So let's look into that. So these tests are antibody tests for the SARS-CoV-2 based on ELISA or lateral flow techniques. And I've talked about those techniques at a high level in a video that I posted on my YouTube channel. More importantly, as I mentioned before, there's a requirement for independent validation by a lab at NCI or another agency designated by the FDA. These tests are to be used at only CLIA certified labs for moderate and high complexity tests. They are not meant for home use. So let's look at the requirements. Sample type is serum or plasma, and for positive agreement, 30 confirmed positive samples must be tested. Overall positive agreement requirement is at 90%. And if the test detects both IgM and IgG antibodies, there are separate requirements for those two types of antibodies. For IgM, it's at 70%, and for IgG, it's at 90%. Negative agreement, again, should be tested on serum plasma samples, and 80 confirmed negative samples are required to be tested, or they could be pre-COVID-19 samples. 10 of these samples must be HIV positive, because there's a concern at the FDA about cross-reactivity with HIV. The requirement is overall 95% negative agreement and no cross-reactivity with HIV. So let's look at the results of the first test that got authorized under this program. And again, we are using this only as an example, and it's not supposed to be an endorsement of this particular test. This first test came from a company called Euroimmun US, which is a subsidiary of PerkinElmer. So I'm very pleased to see this test go through this process, and they already had a lot of validation data, and it's good to see their performance validated by FDA at an independent laboratory. So let's look at their numbers. The testing was done at Frederick National Lab for Cancer Research, which is part of NCI. 30 positive samples, 80 negative samples were tested. For positive agreement, they had at 90%. Which is meeting the requirements because it's an IgG test, and recall IgG requirement was 90%. The confidence interval is a little bit broad, and we'll talk about that in a little while. Negative agreement at 100%, that's very good news, and again in a very tight interval. I was especially pleased to see data around predictive value at low prevalence, and I talked about that in another video which you can find on my YouTube channel. Basically what it means is that if the test comes positive, what is the probability that the person has antibodies? Or if the test comes negative, what is the probability that they don't have antibodies? And this is different from positive agreement and negative agreement. This is really the real world performance of a test. So in this case, it's at 100%, but actually the confidence interval is very broad, 46.1 to 100%. And I did a simulation of 1,000 random tests using this data. And I found that the average positive predictive value was only 68%. So about 1 in 3 chance that a positive test will actually be a wrong result. So there's a 1 in 3 chance, and it needs to be a little bit better than that. But certainly it's a good start. So hopefully this will be an area for improvement for this particular test. Negative agreement is high, and as a result, predictive value for the negative test is also very high, 99.5%. in a pretty tight interval. So that's very good result. We can be very confident when the test is negative that the person really does not have antibodies. And again, there's no cross-reactivity with HIV. So these are good results from this particular test. And hopefully more of this type of test will be authorized by the FDA through independent validation like this. I was very pleased to see a lot of validation data provided in the IFU from this company. They tested literally thousands of samples for specificity, which is good news. They wanted to be sure that when we test negative for antibodies, we are going to be making a good conclusion. So a lot of good data, a lot of good validation, confirmation of that validation by FDA, and we would like to see more of this come out in the future. So there's a lot going on, and I've made several video updates on the recent developments. You can find them on my YouTube channel, and here's how to go there. You can sign up and subscribe, and that'll be the best way to keep in touch with whatever is going on. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, and there I post videos and links to my channel, and you can find that will be a very easy way for you to come and find my YouTube channel. I look forward to hearing from you, so send me your questions and comments, and I'll do my best to answer them timely or even make another video as an update. Thank you for your interest and attention, and please be safe.